Well, it's time for Money Matters. 3 minutes after 10 o'clock, I've got the dollar sign guru, Dr. Dr.
You're killing me.
Dr. Terrance Martin. And of course, Money Matters is brought to you by First Federal.
But before we even jump to the commercial, good morning to everybody. Good morning, Jamster. Sorry I missed you last week. I almost got poisoned here with some form of food poison. I have a bad gluten allergy, and I went to a restaurant and they told me that there was no gluten in a certain dish, and they completely lied and knowingly did so. But you know, we live in a non-litigious society, so I can't sue, but I really want to, right? Because it's a popular known company and I know they got the money to pay, right? So somebody has to hold them accountable. So good morning, St. Kitts and Nevis. Welcome to another edition of Money Matters right here on WINNFM 98.9. And I'm your host, Dr. Terrance Martin, and I am thrilled to have you join us on this beautiful day. It's hot. It's really, really hot. Now, as we kick off this morning's show, I want to pose a couple thought-provoking questions to you. Especially those who are just leaving school, CFB, transitioning from high school to CFB, or maybe you're mid-career and you're thinking about a change. Are you ready to unlock your full potential? Are you prepared to elevate your education and career to new heights? The sun is shining bright, and so are the countless opportunities that await you. You see, higher education is a pivotal key to unlocking new prospects, enhancing earning potential, and transforming lives. I could tell you because I'm a testament to that. Allow me to share some compelling facts with you. Individuals with a bachelor's degree typically earn about 66% more than those with just a high school diploma. That's according to the U.S. Bureau of Labor and Statistics. Now, higher education, therefore, can boost individuals' lifetime earnings by up to $1 million. Now, obviously, this data is based on the U.S. market, but if we were to do dollar for dollar, I think the same is still true here. In St. Kitts and Nevis and the wider Caribbean. Now, every dollar invested in higher education usually yields some sort of economic growth for the country, especially if you move back home, because countries with higher education levels usually have higher GDP per capita, which is up to 3 times higher than those with lower education levels. College graduates also have lower unemployment rates. All right. Now, if we're to specifically focus on the Caribbean context, according to the Caribbean Development Bank, individuals with tertiary education, higher education, and approximately in the region now, in the U.S., we heard it was 66% in the region, and this statistic could be a little bit far out there, somewhere between 80 to 85% more, right, in some cases. And that could be true because, you know, a lot of our islands have very low minimum wages, and if you don't have the education, they'll keep wages predominantly low. And the Caribbean Human Development Reports highlight that higher education leads to lower unemployment rates across our region, with tertiary graduates facing significantly less joblessness. So we're seeing that correlation that happened in the developing world is also happening here. And according to the Inter-American Development Bank, reports that each additional year of schooling in the Caribbean can increase individual earnings by about 10%. Now, but the benefits of higher education extend far beyond personal gain. It's not just about the money. It also has a profound and positive impact on our communities. Higher education leads to better health outcomes, they say, helps to reduce poverty, increase civic engagement, and by investing in your human capital, we're investing in a brighter future for ourselves, our families, and our beloved Federation here in St. Kitts and Nevis. So I guess you realize the topic of today is higher education, because it also fosters innovation and critical thinking, which is essential components for just addressing societal challenges and driving progress, especially the challenges that we're seeing now as it relates to crime, as it relates to drug use, as it relates to all these high unemployment rates and poverty in our region and specifically our countries. Now, countries that prioritize education see advancements in technology, healthcare, and overall quality of life. Now, I understand that the path to it can seem daunting. It's not cheap. It's expensive in some cases, but Is it a cost or is it an investment? You might be wondering, how do I access these opportunities? And that's precisely what we'll be talking about in today's show. We'll be discussing some avenues and some scholarships that are coming forward, maybe even to get some insights on the student visa process of studying in the US as well as Canada. And that's with one of a guest that we're going to have, who is my personal mentor, the guy that recruited me 20 years ago from St. Kitts and Nevis, Dr. Randy Glean. He should be calling in. We'll hear from experts like himself, and I will consider myself as well because I'm a product of a program like the one that we'll be discussing. Imagine walking through beautiful campuses and immersing yourself in vibrant cultural experiences and seizing the countless opportunities that come with studying in North America, or maybe even Europe. With right support and guidance, these dreams are entirely within your reach. So grab your tea, grab your coffee, maybe grab a mimosa or a tequila. It's 5 o'clock somewhere. And let's talk about this and embark on this enlightening journey together. We'll explore how to leverage education to build brighter futures for ourselves, our families, and community. And throughout this show, we'll tackle the benefits, the challenges, and the opportunities, because the other guest is going to be a local institution that could tell us what products they have that they could help you pay for it. All right, so that's an important segment as well. We'll provide you the knowledge, the inspiration needed to take this next step. So let's make today count and let's start building the future that we deserve. It's time to unlock your potential and shine. So stay with us. Get ready to be inspired. This is Money Matters, where we believe that an educated mind is the most powerful tool for change. Let's dive into the world of higher education and explore the boundless possibilities that lie ahead. But before we get into our segment and we hear from Dr. Randy Glean, who should be calling in, I have to check with him just to make sure he's not having any trouble. Let's get a word from our sponsors. First Federal Credit Union.
Save or borrow money. It's easy as 1, 2, 3. First Federal makes your needs a priority. Respect, integrity, rich. Commitment, honesty, rich. We're the first choice for your financial needs. Need a loan, we say yes. Need to save, we say yes. To invest, we say yes. We are your first choice. Need a loan, we say yes. Need to save, we say yes. To invest, we say yes. We are your first choice. First Federal Cooperative Credit Union, making financial success first nature. Money rules the world, and don't you love that cash? Grab it with your greedy hands. It's time to stash.
All right, and we're back. And our first guest is going to be Dr. Dr. Roland Randy Glean, also known as Bird. As I said, he's my mentor. And he's had, Jamso, when you think of a Caribbean hero, I think Dr. Randy Glean is just that, a Caribbean hero. Over 30 plus years of dedicated service to not just education, but educating our Caribbean population. And he started with a program that has benefited hundreds of Kittitians and divisions over the years. And if we look at it on a regional basis, his efforts can directly be linked to over 4,000 Caribbean nationals at least accumulating their bachelor's degree. So when I think of a Caribbean hero, a Caribbean statesman, I think of Dr. Randy Glean, originally hailing from Grenada and then moving to the U.S., PhD in constitutional law from Washington University, which is the top 20 university in the country. A brilliant man. He could have done anything with his life, and he dedicated it to educating the Caribbean population. Because of the likes of Dr. Randy Glean, Dr. Terrance Martin exists. I went to the U.S. in 2005 for a bachelor's degree and ended up with a master's as well, right? And ended up also with a PhD. And I'm not just a unicorn. We have countless of that. He's recruited, I know one gentleman from Molyneux that started at one school and then ended up leaving and going into medical school, right? And we have lawyers. We have a lot of the senior managers now in some of our institutions pass through his program. Our UN ambassador, Mutreese Williams, passed through his program, right? So we have countless examples locally. But if we go to the regional scale, he's helped students from Bahamas all the way to Trinidad and Africa and Asia and all those things. I'm happy. I'm overjoyed to have Dr. Glean as my guest this morning. And I know we're trying to get him on Zoom. And Doc, are you there?
Hi, Doc. What's up? Hello. Yeah, I just admitted him, so I don't know. You could ask him, make sure he isn't muted or anything. You know, sometimes people are muted and they don't realize.
I understand.
Yeah. Okay, so folks, you're just joining us. It's Money Matters, brought to you by First Federal.
Yes, and our first guest is joining from Zoom, so we're just making sure that he's getting in. He's currently in Antigua on a 6-island stop between the 10th. Okay, so Doc, can you hear me?
Yeah, tell him just talk if he's got his stuff unmuted.
Yeah, he said he's unmuted.
No,
I'm unmuted. I am unmuted.
Yeah.
All right, there you go. Hey, Doc, good morning. And welcome to Money Matters. I was telling Jamster, who's the producer, I'm overjoyed to have you on my show because if not for you, there's no me, right? No, there's no Dr. Terrance Martin. So, how are you doing, man? How is Antigua this morning?
Antigua is warm and nice and pleasant, and don't start that. If not for me, there would always be a Dr. Terrance Martin, brilliant in his own right.
Well, I appreciate
I'm
you
a little
saying
piece of the puzzle.
I appreciate you saying that, but the reality is, man, the impact that you've had on the region and continue to have on the region is second to none. So tell my listening audience about the current 6-island tour that you and some of your colleagues are on. I know you're starting in Antigua today with your first college fair. Then we go to Anguilla, 2 stops in St. Kitts, and 1 stop in St. Kitts, 1 in Nevis. Then you move on to St. Lucia and Grenada. Tell my listening audience
and Dominica.
And Dominica as well. Okay, you added that stop. All right.
Yes.
So just tell them a little bit about what's happening there.
Well, it's a continuation of 30 years of work, 31 years. 1993 was the first time I did that run through the region at the time, promoting an institution in Texas for students who really had limited opportunity in those days. The 90s were totally different. You know, you had to be Mr. somebody's son or daughter to go to the States to university. And we reached out to those, you know, the teachers, the civil servants, those people mid-20s, late 20s who didn't have the opportunity, and they were brilliant. They came out. A lot of them ended up being, you know, really stellar professionals. They came out to the U.S. and made a mark. So we continued the mission for 20 plus years in Texas. And in the last 5 years, I've been at Western Illinois University, where we are now reaching 150 or more Caribbean students, still continuing the mission to bring a cohort of young people from the Caribbean, using a more unique platform, using the base education they get from a CFB or from the Charleston High, using the Cape platform, using those first 2 years as the anchor so they don't have to do 4 years of university at exorbitant cost. And we've designed it uniquely with you can actually start online, get as much as you can get done while at home, where there is no cost for being in the US, which Terrance, as you know, is one of the highest components of the cost of education, is presence in the US, and then minimize the amount of time spent on campus in the US to 1 or 2 years so that they can complete their bachelor's degree. And of course, like yourself, once a student gets the bachelor's degree, the pathway to opportunity opens up broadly to go on to the master's, or as in your case, the doctoral studies. So we're trying to show them what is possible and that they're not constrained fully by their finances. Of course, it takes money, but perhaps not as much as you think. You can augment a lot of the costs with your brilliance. You know, the better a student you are, the more scholarships you earn, the more opportunities you earn to get to get funding. So that the reason for going through the region is getting closer to the end of the journey. For me, of course, if I started it 30 some years ago, obviously age would have caught up with me. But I still believe that there is a mission to be had. We still have brilliant young people in the region, and I think we need to get them to get out and explore their horizons and explore what is possible.
Definitely. You know, I think something is uniquely happening here, though, Doc, because when I met you almost 20 years ago, it's been 20 years. I just aged myself. When I met you then, it was just you promoting that one school in Texas. And now here you are traveling with what, 6 schools? And there might be more in that consortium. So, how is that
Yes.
collaborative effort? Because now you're taking it even a step further, right? To provide even a wider based opportunity for potential students.
Absolutely. And so when you came around in the early 2000s, there were actually a couple other options. You may recall there was options at Cameron in
Yes.
Oklahoma, and
Mm-hmm.
I did have Stephen F. Austin and a few other options. So I've always been collaborative. It's never a competition. This isn't a business move. These are
Mm-hmm.
state schools. So one of the things that you can explain to young folks in SKN is that state schools are not for profit institutions. We're building diversity, we're building things that's consistent with our strategic plans. We want great students, but we're not necessarily, of course we're looking for tuition, but we're not looking for profit level tuition.
Yes.
So bringing a consortium together is to say we want to cover all the possible ranges of study fields, by having multiple schools. No one school offers everything. And with this, and you hit it right actually, with this 10 school consortium, we believe that anything you want to study can be found at an institution that's willing to give a partial scholarship to a Caribbean student to keep the cost down, to accept the credits from CFB or CAPE, and make it amenable for that student to come at a reasonable price. So that's why we are teaming up, in effect, to move
Mm-hmm.
as a unit. And these are all, as you know, I've been in higher ed 30 some years. So these are all my friends at different schools that I say, hey, come with me to the Caribbean. You're going to get awesome students, well motivated, no visa problems, really no discipline problems for the most part. And,
Mm-hmm.
and they're going to stay stable and graduate. So that's a very attractive commodity for US and one Canadian universities with us as well.
Doc, let me ask you a question, just off the top of your head. How many petitions and divisions do you think you have been a part of recruiting over the last 30 years?
I think the number is close to 300
That's
over
amazing.
the last 30 years. It's close to 300. I mean, they currently have about 25 at
Okay.
this university, and there are some who've gone to other schools again. I never count just those who come to me, but
Mm-hmm.
those who move through my efforts. And
Mm-hmm.
and I do keep tabs because I like to stay in touch with people. It's not for vanity; it's for humanity.
Love that.
Some of my past students, I like to know they're successful. If they have an issue going, I jump in. I
Mm-hmm.
like to be part of their career. To me, this is the fun. I'm a people person. Just watching brilliant young people, I can call you as a success story. But Marcus Natter, for
Mm-hmm.
example, Dr. Natter didn't come to any school where I was. He went
Mm-hmm.
to
He went
another
to
school
Cameron,
in a
didn't
structure
he?
I created at Cameron.
Yeah.
But just like you, when Marcus was ready to go to the next level, I put him in touch with my colleague at University of Nebraska,
Mm-hmm.
and actually took him on tours with me to WashU and other places, and then got him to grad school. So Pogson and all the others. So I kind of look at that as all my students,
Mm-hmm.
even though they didn't necessarily come to a school where I was based.
That's a valid thing, and from your efforts with me, I was inspired to come and give back. I remember participating in college fairs here and still actively
Absolutely.
encouraging people to go out. So Doc, what do you say to these students, right? These new graduates from CFB, maybe graduating high school this year, where they're living that social media life, right? They're consuming that on a high level, and everybody now is trying to be an influencer, even in our small islands, thinking that they can monetize TikTok and monetize, social media. Just give a little context of about the value of that first degree. I gave some
Oh,
statistics, but
absolutely. Absolutely. And you're the money guy. But let me just add one thing. I'd be remiss. So you mentioned the pyramid of you coming in and then you broadening and helping others. But look at who encouraged you, Dr. Mutrus Williams,
that's what I
who's now
just
the
told
ambassador.
Jamster, the
Right.
ambassador of the UN.
Dr. Williams was my student, my very good friend. Shout out to Mutrus. And she actually brought in pretty much most of your cohort,
Yeah.
and then you came in and you brought others. So yes, that's kind of the way it's worked. Most students who come in get the sense that each one teach one and we got to lift each other up. So to your question about those who can become YouTubers, and this is an industry that most people my age don't understand. I understand it just because I spent my whole life around young people and
Mm-hmm.
I have to be familiar with these things. But there's absolutely nothing wrong with running an industry or being a business person. That's the first look. You should look to be independent. But that first degree is critical when you have to go places and present yourself, to negotiate, to be taken seriously. Credentials help, broad education help in expanding your businesses. You'd be a better YouTuber if you have had the benefit of the university degree. Your talent is what's going to bring it to you. Your ingenuity, your business acumen, certainly these are things that's innate skills. But you absolutely need a fundamental base of education. And I will argue that that base should be somewhere equivalent to the bachelor's degree. An associate's degree, absolutely, certainly. But people still are elitist in that,
Mm-hmm.
when you walk in the door and you're Dr. Terrance Martin, that's a calling card.
It
That
is.
that that you have studied to show yourself approved. And so you have to understand the value of education. They should.
And let's talk a little bit specifically about the event that we're going to have in Nevis on Thursday, because we have listeners there as well as the one in St. Kitts on Friday. Do you have the specifics of the date and location for on time for the event in Nevis?
Yes, I believe we'll have two sessions
Okay.
in Nevis, and one of them is going to be at the Charleston Secondary School, and the other is going to be. I have to remember the name of the place. It's a unique entity. It's a national a park area. I know the place is beautiful. I
Is
just
it like
cannot
is it
remember
the Malcolm
the name of
Gishard
the
Malcolm
location.
Gishard Park?
Yes, there you
Okay.
go. There you
Awesome.
go. Yes. And I think actually there's a thought of doing something in the library. So I'm actually, as we speak, just trying to look up the location. You kind of caught me with that one there. I should have been ready for it.
And then in
I'll
St.
pull it up in a
Kitts,
sec.
and then in St. Kitts, I think it's at the CFB 3
CFB,
p.m. on
3 p.m.
Friday in the Poinciana
Right.
room is what I remember from that flyer. Doc,
Yes, absolutely.
one of my last
But
questions.
Terrence, one thing, it's
Uh-huh.
not just for young kids as well. We should really encourage those people who already have a degree and you're looking to go to the next
Graduate
level.
school,
Because all these
exactly.
schools not only offer graduate options, but funding, much better funding at the graduate level. I mean, don't
Doc, I had a question for
rule out
you.
the possibility,
Oh,
if you are good, that you will get it free.
Yeah.
Yes.
I had a question for you. I mean,
Go ahead.
the doc is always trying to make the question of money, um, uh, you know, sort the question of money out for the listeners. You mentioned earlier the for profit universities. What do our people need to know about for profit universities? I mean,
Because a lot of them attend for profit
yeah,
universities here.
yeah. So I wanted him to give me some cautionary remarks, probably.
Well, a lot of them are elite institutions. The for-profit in of itself is not a bad thing. Harvard is a for-profit institution. I mean, it's a private school, if you want to
Hmm.
call it that. So a lot of the very elite schools are private schools. I went to a private school for my graduate studies, and so I can tell you they're not all created equal. There are some with less history and less prestige that may offer you a high price education and perhaps easy matriculation because their ultimate goal is not a mission to educate as defined by a state body or an accreditation body, but it's an obligation to shareholders. So
Actually,
I don't want to disparage them. They certainly serve a good mission if you can
okay, I
afford it and it
realized.
fits
Yeah,
you.
I think what I meant was when I went by for profit, I was talking about these people advertise on TV, for Capella and
Okay.
some of these
Oh,
other.
okay.
Yeah, not
Yes.
Harvard.
Oh,
Yeah,
those
yeah.
ones.
Hmm.
Yes, those ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes people get degrees for vanity. There's a guy like Terrence who sits in the school and spends 6 years and writes a dissertation and
Hello.
does his research and he gets a doctorate. There's another guy who wants the path of least resistance and he pays for it and he gets a doctorate. All doctorates are not created equal.
There you go.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's just it. One will get you a tenure track job in the university and one will not.
Yeah.
So you just some people want a degree for vanity, for titles. So you have to be careful, and industry recognize that people want degrees for titles and for vanity and for employment purposes, and they will, and I'll use the word, some will sell it to you. So buyer beware. Just know what you're getting. If you're
Hmm.
not doing due diligence and you're going through the rigors and studying, you may not necessarily have a degree that can represent the credential you present.
And Doc, my last question for you, because I know you have to run as well. I just want you to talk to the people. And what do you think? How do you think the government, local government, as well as the private sector and the community together can work to help to promote higher education in our society? Because the data is factual, right? A country that has high levels of higher education people with bachelor's degrees at least, they tend to have higher earning potential, therefore higher GDP per capita. So how do you think those three arms of society can work to promote higher education, encourage young people and those who are mid-career might want to elevate? Doc, did we lose him?
Doc, are you still there? As far as I know, I don't know. You did say earlier.
Yeah, there's some internet trouble. Yeah, so and that's okay. If he jumps back in, great. If not, then we could just switch to the next segment. But I appreciate Dr. Glean for taking time out. He's already in Antigua preparing for their first session, first recruiting efforts. And I think he has about 6 schools with him. Let me pull that flyer up so I could tell you specifically which schools are traveling with him right now. We have Murray State, Southeast Missouri State University, and the dean of the business school was actually my first department chair there. So that's a good institution. Just outside of, you ever watch Ozark? On Netflix?
I watch it once or twice.
Okay, well, Ozark is very close to where Southeast Missouri is. So, State University of New York, Brockport, St. George's University School of Medicine. So those of you who have interest in medical school or a health career, you could look towards that and go out and engage with them. Then we have a University of Guelph in Canada, and naturally Western Illinois University. And he's working also with Weber State and a couple other universities. And I'm trying to get my university, Winston-Salem State, which is a HBCU, to be a part of this consortium, so we could go out and bring more people from St. Kitts and Nevis and the Caribbean at large to come and get a good, solid education. So I think we lost Dr. Glean, but I just want to thank him again. He is a Kittitian by association. His daughter is married to a Kittitian, son of the soil. So in that recruiting class with Mutrees, he recruited his son-in-law, right? So inadvertently. So that was really good. Now, our next segment, we will hear from a representative from our sponsors. She'll be calling in to the phone lines. Is she already there? All right, great. We have Mavlin Emmanuel on the line, who is the credit manager for First Federal Credit Union. Mavlin, if you're listening, call back. We're having a little bit of difficulties with the line.
Okay, what we can do?
Let's break for, let's just take a quick commercial break and hear from our sponsors.
Okay.
Borrow money is easy as 1, 2, 3. First Federal makes your needs a priority. Respect, integrity, rich. Commitment, honesty, rich. We're the first choice for your financial needs. Need a loan, we say yes. Need to save, we say yes. To invest, we say yes. We are your first choice. Need a loan, we say yes. Need to save, we say yes. To invest, we say yes. We are your first choice. First Federal Cooperative Credit Union, making financial success first nature.
And we are back, and I think we have our phone guest.
Good morning.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, a bit low, but I'm hearing you.
Okay, let me get a little bit closer to the mic. And Jams, I think Randy Glean said he might have come back in. So if he is back on.
Oh, I actually ended
Oh,
the
we
Zoom.
ended it? Oh,
Yeah.
that's fine then.
Okay.
That's fine then. All right, so Mavlin, thank you very much. I know you have a busy morning ahead. We just had an opening segment that focused on an education opportunity that's happening here in St. Kitts and Nevis this week, Thursday and Friday. Thursday in Nevis, we have 2 recruiting sessions with about 6 universities that's going to be in Nevis, and then they come over to St. Kitts for Friday, and then they go on to some different islands. So I thought it best that if we're going to talk about going off to university, we should talk about how we pay for that, right? And what a better way than engaging our sponsor and learning about the credit options that you might have for students that want to go on and study either in the US, in the Canada, maybe online, or in Europe, as an example?
Okay. Thank you once again for giving us the opportunity just to speak about our education products. Here at First Federal Credit Union, we are passionate about our members furthering their education and developing a community on a whole. So we have several products to suit our members' different types of education needs, whether it's online or in campus learning. They could just come in and we can provide a product that might suit their need.
You have any specifics that we can get into in terms of, okay, let's start here. What's the process? Is it simple as just come in, set a meeting with one of your loan officers? Do they need to bring in anything specifically like transcripts, acceptances, cost of the school, things like that?
Yes. So the education loan is by appointment. They would need to bring the acceptance letter from the school, the fees listing from the school. The letter or the fees should also state the term of the course that they're going into, and we would do any course, associate degree, bachelor's, master's, PhD. If you want to do a 6-month course, it's not limited. Our education products will cover any form of education, but you would need the acceptance letters and you would need the fee course from the school.
I really like the flexibility, but is there a top? What's the maximum that a student can borrow from First Federal for student loan purposes?
So I'm happy you asked that, Terrance, because we don't have a cap on our education loan.
Oh, that's unique.
Yeah, unlike other financial institutions who may have a cap, we do not have a cap on our education loans. If it's such that you and your guarantor can qualify for the amount that you're requesting for school, that's fine. The last one we did was for over 400,000.
Oh my God!
Someone studying medicine. Yep.
Oh wow!
Yep.
Oh wow!
Over 400,000. So we have no cap on our student loans.
And all right, so you mentioned guarantors. That definitely opens up an important topic. So if someone wants a loan for school, they need just a guarantor, or the guarantor has to meet a certain level of income, because the assumption is that that student will not have any sort of wage income when they leave. Or is there an option for using collateral as an example to secure the loan?
So we use collateral, but we would also need the guarantor, because the guarantor would be responsible for paying the interest-only payments while the individual is at school.
Okay, so we need both, right? So we need maybe some form of collateral, plus you have that guarantor.
Some form of collateral, depending on the amount of your loan.
And then the interest payment then that you're going to pay while you're in school, that's a benefit to the student in the end, right? Because some people might say, hey, why am I taking a loan if I just have to go and pay it back immediately? But what are the benefits of paying the interest while you're actually off studying, as opposed to, say, waiting 4 years and then starting to pay the interest?
Well, paying the interest is really and truly not allowing your interest to accumulate while you're at school. And we've asked that the guarantor pay just the interest, because really and truly the loan is for the individual and not the guarantor. The guarantor is helping out. So we really don't want to put all that pressure on the guarantor to pay the full loan payment. And the guarantor is just paying the interest to help the person out while they're at school. And when they come back to school, they've already started paying the interest on the loan. After a certain period, when they've obtained employment, then they start paying the full loan payment.
What's that certain period? Has it been defined? Is it 6 months? Is it
so right now it's 6 months.
Okay.
But the student needs to keep in contact with the financial institution. We try our best to keep in contact to give a status update. And based on where you are in terms of your employment process, that can be extended.
Well, let me ask you this, and I'm going to look from my personal experience as well. I went on from a bachelor's. I initially left, got a student loan, went to do a bachelor's. The opportunity was there to do a master's, and then another opportunity to do a PhD. What about deferment? Do you have a deferment option? What happens if that student calls up and say, hey, Mavlin, hey, First Federal, I have another opportunity to go to graduate school. Can I defer my loan?
Yes, you can, as long as your guarantor is in agreement as well.
Okay, so we have consistency there. All right, great. It's really amazing, and First Federal really continues to amaze me with the types of products and services that you offer. I mean, no cap on the amount of student loan that you can get, right? The interest only aspect, the grace period after graduating. And I think that flexibility is obviously to the benefit of your customers. And I also like that it doesn't just have to be a bachelor's. It could be an associate's, or it could be a certificate program, or some program that's focused on vocational training. Like the essence of the show today was really to push a higher education, going off to do a degree. But I don't want that to be lost, that there are opportunities in the vocational and technical space that First Federal would financially support if you qualify, correct?
Correct. And I also don't want it to be lost that it's only for persons going off. If you choose to do online learning, it's open to you as well.
Lovely. But will they have the same interest only if it's online as they would?
It depends on the type of program. If you're doing an online program where you're full-time learning but online, then yes. But if it's a program where you're working while you're studying part-time, then you would pay it as regular.
Okay, understood. All right, understood. Any final words, Marvin? I know you have a meeting that you need to step back into. Any final words, encouragement to those who might be...
To continue to encourage the public, because as it's summer, we're getting quite a few applications for education loans.
Okay.
And we're happy to see that persons are deciding to continue with higher learning. And just let them know that First Federal is always there for the educational needs.
And that's amazing. And there you have it, folks, from our sponsor here at Money Matters. We have the credit manager, Marvin Emmanuel, that took time out of her busy Monday to come and share the loan opportunities for higher education, some tertiary education, and education beyond high school, right? That can be online. It could be you go to the site or in country. And it's very versatile. I mean, the fact that there's no cap, let me tell you, that right there is a selling point, because that's going to significantly reduce your financial stress while in college. All right, so Marvin, thank you so much for that. And I encourage your institution to continue to be innovative and continue to provide added value to the population here in St. Kitts and Nevis.
Thank you again, Terrance.
Appreciate that.
Bye.
All right, so Jamster, there you have it. We heard from two very distinguished guests that have been, Dr. Glee. This man, he's my daughter's godfather. Oh my God, what am I saying? He's my daughter's godfather. So I owe a lot of where I am to him, and it wasn't just the educational piece. I think what was a blessing. In my experience with being recruited and mentored eventually by Dr. Glean is he gave me that reality check, right? And the opportunities extended beyond that initial, hey, okay, you're coming to Midwestern State for a bachelor's. No, he went way beyond that. He took graduate trips to Texas Tech, where I eventually got my PhD, right? So if not for that, and I remember I was unemployed at the time, and Dr. Glean called me up and was like, I have a group going to Lubbock. I was like, what the hell is Lubbock, right? And I looked it up and said, he's going to Texas Tech, and do I want to come? And this is me. I had just graduated. It was the middle of the financial crisis in 2008, and, he provided that opportunity for me. And I said that to say that sometimes we could get into several universities, but what sets us apart in terms of success and the next step forward are the allies that we have and meet along the way, the people that are fighting the battles that we do not see, the battles that are behind closed doors. Higher education is very political. And what he has done over the past 3 decades has been nothing short of self-sacrificing and selfless. So, Dr. Glean, if you're still listening, Randy, I personally want to thank you for the impact that you've had on my life. And I know the impact that you've had on over 300 plus Kittitians and Divisions lives as we speak. And just to reiterate what he said, a lot of the schools on the college fair that will happen on Thursday in Nevis and Friday here in St. Kitts at CFB, they offer a dual program. So you could start online. That's going to save tens of thousands of dollars. the fact that you can start online with a scholarship is going to save you tens of thousands of dollars. I know for Western Illinois University, which Dr. Glean is representing in full capacity as the person in charge of the international admissions and international office, I know that I think we've had maybe 25 to 30 people from St. Kitts and Nevis. I know one of them particularly, a young woman, she did her degree completely online. She did her degree completely online, had no issues, all right, and graduated successfully. And if I understand correctly, she got an opportunity to go on and do her master's degree, all right? So you have the opportunity, the avenue is there. You are no longer just limited by, oh, you have to go overseas. And the fact that you could get a scholarship, while starting your career, your academic career online is just second to none. All right, so that would be great. And then following that with a financial institution that's local, that's saying no cap. I have no cap on the amount of money that you can borrow. As long as your guarantor is okay, that's also a blessing. All right, and that was surprising to me because most institutions, I think it's about $40,000 US. So that's about somewhere between $108,000 to maybe $120,000 that you could get max. So for First Federal to come out and say, hey, St. Kitts and Nevis, we want to offer you a bit more. We don't want you to feel restricted. That's just amazing. I know they've done loans for law school. Now we've heard they're doing massive loans for medical school. And so there's the opportunity there. Just go out, set an appointment, open door policy at First Federal. I personally have loans at First Federal. I went through the process with them, and they try their best to give you all that information and give you a quick response, because that's sometimes a struggle. I remember when I was going off to university, I had to delay a semester because the response came in so late. All right, so again, higher education leads to a more skilled and knowledgeable workforce, which can drive economic growth and innovation. And if you look at it within the context of CSME, the Caribbean Single Market and Economy, the free movement of people, look around, walk around, hear the different accents, it's already happening. A lot of the educated individuals are coming here to St. Kitts, right? Not longer just at ECCB. They're taking jobs in our banks, in our credit unions, at some of our local businesses, right? So we have to be competitive. Kittitians, Nevisians, you have to tool up, you have to level up in order to be competitive even within our local market. I'm not even talking about competing in the US, competing in Europe, competing in Canada. In our local market, here in Bastia, in Charlestown, in Dieppe Bay, in Gingerland, you have to now tool up to be competitive because of the rest of the Caribbean is coming. The rest of the Caribbean is coming to our shores. Jamaica, Barbados, Trinidad, and Antigua, they have a UE campus. We have a UE center here, and I know a lot of people have been educated through that center. It does great work. How do you compete with a campus, a full campus? And I think in Barbados or one of those islands, they get significantly discounted rates. So they probably go to school cheaper than we do. And then they're looking for opportunities as well. We can't afford not to retool. So whether it is online, whether it's in country, I strongly encourage you to look at this. If you have doubts, if you have questions, by all means, reach out. Visit us on Friday at CFB here in St. Kitts at the Poinciana Room, 3 p.m. I'll be there to answer any questions from a personal experience perspective, as well as I'm an educator, and I might have some other opportunities for you as well. Just this morning, I was speaking to a young woman who was asking me about wanting to do her master's and wanting options, and I told her about Germany, looking at Germany as your option. I have some of my past students have studied in France for graduate work, all right? So the opportunities are endless. And I know the government also offers a bunch of scholarships and a bunch of bilateral relationships that could lead to bachelor's degrees. I think this weekend we saw graduations out of Taiwan. I know we have students in Morocco. I think we had a program in Mexico. We have students in Cuba. and all of that. So it's an exciting time, it's an exciting opportunity, but I'm telling you, if you don't go out and invest in yourself, especially with all the technical changes that we're having, including AI, artificial intelligence, you could be left behind.
Let me ask you a question. It was mentioned that someone had a loan, a student loan for up to $400,000. How?
I don't think that person coming back.
That's what I'm thinking. I mean, that person's probably gonna go work for some big shot farm or company or something.
It depends, man. Honestly,
because how else are you really gonna be able to pay that and still live?
That's a part of a bigger
house
That's a part of a bigger conversation in our country where wages are really low. But one thing I could say for Kittitians and Divisions, they love to come back. They love to come home, right? And I think in Nevis in particularly, actually a lot of them come back. I mean, look, Dr. Natta, right? I mean, he came back. He has a PhD in what? Chemical engineering or something like that. Like, it's crazy. But he came back home. Whatever the reason is, he came back. And I think there are a number of others that have done the same as well. I know Nevis offers support in the farm, at least used to. There was like a $5,000 US dollar a year grant that they used to offer. I'm not sure if, I think the director of education, the PS of education is a product of this recruitment effort by Dr. Glean, Zanella Claxton. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, she's doing a graduate work at Western Illinois University right now online. So it's a network. We have a network, we have a community that extends from Bahamas to Trinidad out there promoting and supporting each other in education.
I don't know if you were following this story, the story we had of UWI getting in a little trouble because they wanted to can some courses that they thought weren't getting the uptake.
Well, profitable.
Yes.
I mean, universities are business.
And then they had to recant because
there was some student. Yeah. I didn't follow that story, but we're experiencing it right now, even at my institution, where we have significant. You see, okay, in the United States, and here's the reason why a lot of these schools are coming to the region to recruit. We have a demographic issue in the U.S. All right, the U.S. is an aging population. Therefore, we're gonna approach over the next 5 to 10 years. Where will we get those freshman students to start at university, right? So now universities will invest more in recruiting efforts. They're going to come to our shores. They're going to throw scholarships. They're going to allow for on-campus jobs. They're going to help with tuition waivers, etc. We even saw Southern University in Louisiana that offered, they say it's a full scholarship. I doubt it's a full scholarship. That's just not how the U.S. works. For the current queen to go there, right? And then they wanted to expand within the region, within the country through Ministry of Education, right?
The dude was on stage and everything.
Yeah, it was a whole big show, right? Yeah. They made a big episode of that. But, and that's great. The more opportunities that we can have, we can't be mad at that, right? If anybody wants to go off. We see a lot more of our athletes leaving as well. The country, though, from the government, the private sector, we have to do a better job at creating an environment to come back to your point. For example, I had a hard time being absorbed back into the local workforce, right? I remember looking at a couple of jobs. This is even before I got my doctoral degree, and the salaries were just ridiculously low. Because to your point, how do I pay a student loan, try to get a house, try to get a car, start my family, go into that production stage of life? I'm going to be more broke than before I left, right? So we have to do something where we really look at wages and wage compensation, salaries in general in the country, because wage inflation is far lower than than regular inflation, the cost of inflation. In fact, the cost to build a house has almost doubled in the past 3 years, right? So it's getting extremely expensive to live. So that's a fair question. That's a fair comparison. And we're truly hoping that the government and the private sector can work together, because them working together as well as the community is crucial. We need them to work together to create more opportunities and support students for student success. Now, for me, Jamster, for example, I'm going to be controversial for a bit. I never agreed with the $500 dividend, right? Why? That does nothing for the economy in terms of economic growth. Now, yes, individuals will benefit from it. And you hear from the recent IMF report, they told them to basically stop it because they gave 14% of CBI revenues they paid out so far in that effort, I think within that year, all right? Don't be upset with me. I'm not trying to take your $500. I'm saying I would love to see CBI money support our students. If you look at our hospital, where are the gaps? If you look within our tech sectors, where are the gaps? If you look within education, for example, if we have children with special needs, where are the gaps? How are we tooling our society to be competitive in a global space?
And also, you're still not seeing an effort to map out what it is a growing society and economy needs to thrive as far as professional, professional fields and so on. For so many years we didn't have a pathologist, and that kind of thing. I mean, why isn't the government having some kind of incentive program that says, okay, we should have, I think we have pretty much like 1 or 2 radiologists. We have Mark, and I think there's 1 person in Nevis.
Yeah.
Why isn't the government saying, okay, maybe we should try and have 2 or 3 more, look at other fields, not just medicine, everything. I mean, machinists.
Right.
I mean,
right.
what I don't understand.
Especially like, for example, let's look at Skellig with all these outages. How many trained engineers do we have? How many trained electrical engineers do we have? Mechanical engineers? How many software engineers do we have to man server? For example, we have JAD here. JAD is a tech company, right? I'm certain that they're working with some people in India and Bangladesh. They have local workers as well. But the reality is, how do we access that? So you're right. And that's where government and the private sector and community leaders through NGOs need to come together, sit down. What are the needs of the country, right? What are the needs of the country? And to be honest, right, Jamster, we have specialists from St. Kitts and Nevis who are back. I know somebody that's a specialist in criminal justice, wanted to get a job in the police force, but she teaches English because they would not hire her. Right, so we need to also remove politics and take politics out of this thing and truly allow our economy and country to grow and thrive.
And to that $400,000,
that really bother you, man.
Yeah, it really
that one step
because it's conceivable that if you had a planned system of sussing out what it is we need, that person might not have to be going to find that money.
Right.
The government could be funding it.
The government could be funding it, providing some sort of partial income, etc.
Yeah, I mean,
you're absolutely right, and maybe they are. Maybe they are. We don't know, right? But I could tell you if that person, then let's say I'm assuming it's med school, so they'll probably have a residency. The earning potential is about, and even as a general practitioner, about 175,000 US.
And they need to incentivize specialization in medicine, especially.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that 400,000, that is a scary money to have your ass in a sling for honestly.
For education. You're absolutely correct.
But
that's very common, right? It's very common. And in St. Kitts, we benefit from 2 sides of that coin because we have the Ross students that come here and pay significant sums of money to come to our shows for their education, right? So it's just another avenue. But yeah, we need some partnership.
Absolutely.
Need some public and private sector partnership to make sure that we could address some of these gaps that we have. But you're concerned about that 400,000. My concern is the technical side. My concern is the fact that artificial intelligence, apps like ChatGPT, companies like OpenAI and Microsoft's Copilot is going to take your jobs. And I'm talking to us here in St. Kitts and Nevis. I'm not even going to BS you, right? When you look at certain careers, even within finance and accounting, we have apps where we could automate certain processes already. Like the reason, ValueMat and Rams, they don't need cashiers. They could have self-checkout lines and kiosks.
But those things
right?
are still, they're not
True, but that's what. But the technology is just going to get better because now they have stores. Amazon has stores that are not even manned.
But also self-checkout. I imagine there'd be a lot of pilferage because people trust me.
I'm hoping our people that they will not go and steal the people's
trust me,
things.
they will. Because, but we had to leave it there. 2 minutes.
We got to leave
11.
it there.
Yeah.
Yes. So let me wrap up, Jamsa. So that's really all the time that we will have for today's episode of Money Matters. I want to thank our guests, Dr. Randy Rolling Green, Dr. Randy Glean. It's been an interesting morning. Dr. Glean is my personal mentor. He's been the one that has given me that had conversation when I've needed it. And then we had Mavlin Emmanuel from First Federal. Dr. Glean will be in country from Thursday, starting in Nevis. They have 2 events. One at the college there, the 6th form there, and then the other at Malcolm Gishad Park in St. Kitts specifically. For Friday, I encourage all of you to come on out, come meet me, ask me questions, get that personal experience. They're going to be at CFB, 3 p.m., Poinciana Room. So don't hesitate to show up. Bring your friends, bring your family. Remember that higher education is an investment in your future, and there are resources available to help you achieve your goals. Don't be afraid to explore your options and seek support when you need it. So join us next time on Money Matters as we explore more topics. And next week, Jamsa, it's Men's Health Month, right? Men's Mental Health Month, right?
It is?
June. You see, look at that. It's Men's Mental Health Month, and this weekend is Father's Day, so go out and support and celebrate your father. We have a lot of good men that show up. So next week's show is going to be focused on men's mental health and have that conversation. Maybe get a couple of guys in here to hear from a male perspective. Once again, my name is Dr. Terrance Martin. This is Money Matters. Remember, it takes financial knowledge to know that you're making financial mistakes. Have a great Monday and enjoy the rest of your week.